The ugliest thing in a house is almost never the most expensive thing in a house. It could be pink or blue tile in the bathroom, which was so common when I was a real estate agent in New York City. Could be wood paneling, or it could be carpet in the bathroom, which is the grossest thing. But that stuff photographs badly and costs much less to fix, while there are other things that are going to take $20,000 out of your pocket right away. And those things are usually behind a wall, under the floor, or sitting in the corner of the basement quietly doing nothing at all. So I'm Annie Oakman. I'm a real estate agent here in Central Massachusetts. I am licensed in Massachusetts and Connecticut, so I service both states. I flipped houses with my husband in New Jersey, and I've personally done framing, drywall, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, flooring, everything, painting. I'm not good at painting though, so no tips there. But when I walk a fixer-upper with a buyer, which I love to do, I'm not looking at the style of the kitchen. That dreaming comes down the line, but I'm looking at a few other key things. So here are 5 things that I wish every buyer knew before making an offer. And just a quick note before we start, I'm not here to talk you out of a fixer-upper or talk you into them. I really love working with my clients who are looking for fixer-uppers, or my first-time buyers who are looking for a home that they can fix up themselves and put a little equity into it. In a market where affordability is just genuinely hard, buying something that needs work is one of the few real paths that really people can get into a house. So you're building the equity, and I just really want to talk you through this and make sure that you go into this with all the information that you could possibly have. Okay, so first, let's talk about the things that you can't see right off the bat. So I feel like everybody walks into a fixer-upper and they start dreaming of their kitchen or their bathroom or moving walls all over the place, but nobody is thinking about what it will cost for a upgraded 200 amp electrical panel or all of the new wiring. So here are a few things that you cannot see right off the bat that you really want to pay attention to. Water is number one. I heard an inspector say this one time that water is like your most expensive issue, and it could come from the top of your house, your roof, or it could come from the bottom of your house, your basement, or anywhere in between. So water is really the most expensive problem in any house, and it's one that creates other problems as well. A leaking roof becomes rotted sheathing. So your roof has shingles and then it's got wood sheathing right underneath that. So a leaking roof becomes rotted sheathing, and that becomes framing repairs that you're going to need to make. And it could become mold. So you're talking framing and mold remediation. A wet basement becomes a foundation conversation. I look at grading outside, I look at the sill plate in the basement, and I look at the ceiling under every single bathroom. You're looking for water. Then you're going to talk about structure. We're talking sagging floors, cracked foundations, a beam that somebody notched out to run a pipe through. Structural work is expensive and it's disruptive too. You can't do anything else until the structural work is done. Now, sometimes we're in Massachusetts, we could be walking into homes that are 100 years old or older, and the floor is sagging and it's settled, and otherwise like the structure is good. It's just that the floor is totally sloped, and some people don't mind that one bit. Other people, it drives them crazy. Like I personally cannot walk through a house where the floors are really wonky. So it's a personal preference, but what's important is the structure. Is the structure sound? And that's what we need to look at. Then we need to look at systems, electrical, plumbing, heat, a house that has a 60 amp panel still, galvanized supply lines, 30-year-old boiler. Those are 3 big ticket items that are going to cost you quite a bit to repair, replace, and none of them unfortunately make the house look any prettier. So way at the bottom, we're talking cosmetics, paint, floors. That's the stuff, honestly, that scares buyers off, and it's really the cheapest item on their list. So when you're walking a house, wallpaper is a discount, wet basement is a bill. Okay, so second, in Massachusetts, the age of the house triggers specific costs. So our housing stock here in Massachusetts is old. A huge share of central Massachusetts homes were built well before 1978, and Massachusetts have rules that kick in because of that. So first, we can talk about knob and tube wiring. If a house still has live knob and tube, it's not really only a safety question, it's an insurance question. A lot of carriers won't even write a policy on a home with active knob and tube, or they will charge substantially more. So no insurance means no mortgage. You cannot have a bank lend on the property if you cannot get insurance on the property. So that just gets even more expensive. So if you see cloth wrapped wiring and little ceramic knobs in the basement, you want to make sure that that knob and tube is not active. If so, we've got to find an insurer that will actually actually insure on the property. All right, next I mentioned that date, 1978. So we're going to be talking lead paint. Massachusetts has its own lead law on top of the federal disclosure rules. So in short, a house built before 1978 where a child under the age of 6 years old will be living, the owner is responsible for getting it de-leaded or under interim control. And there's a deadline after you take the title for doing this. So de-leading costs quite a bit of money. It is licensed work. It has to be done correctly. So if you are planning to have young kids or if you have young kids, you just need to make sure that you understand if the property has lead on it or lead in it, and you need to budget for that deliberately. Especially important if you're purchasing a multifamily property. Properties that have already been de-leaded are obviously more appealing because it's quite a big project to undertake. I had a client that rented a property and the listing agent told us that the property had been de-leaded, and my clients went in. It was a rental, so my clients kind of handled it directly with the other listing agent, and they moved in, and the landlord was unaware that they had a little one that was like 3 or 4 months old, so well below the 6-year age gap. So the landlord actually ended up having to rent an Airbnb for my clients where they could stay for a couple of weeks while the entire house was de-leaded. So that was a big cost for the landlord. So you really have to know if your property is de-leaded, make sure everything is communicated, and know as a landlord, you cannot discriminate against people that have children under the age of 6 just because of lead or for any other reason at all. So make sure you understand the fair housing laws as well. Okay, so next in the age of homes, we want to talk about septic. So if the house is on septic rather than town sewer, which is common when you're in certain towns in the area, Massachusetts requires a Title V inspection to be done, and it has to pass. So a failed system is going to need to be repaired or replaced, upgraded. A new septic system is honestly a costly thing. So you need to find out if the Title V, if the septic passed, and if not, who is going to pay for that. And then the two other things that I always look for are asbestos, often wrapped around old heating pipes or under vinyl flooring, and oil tanks that may have been abandoned or buried. Both manageable things, but cost more than people expect. So, and neither of those things are going to show up on listing photos, of course. So these things should not scare you off from an old house. I really love old homes. It just means built in 1910 is a line item and not a charming detail all of the time. Sometimes it is when you find a really great updated home where they've taken care of all of the big ticket items. Okay, number 3, unpermitted work. That is really important to keep an eye on. The one that catches people often, and this is honestly like one of my least favorite surprises, somebody finishes a basement, they turn the attic into a bedroom, they added a half bathroom, everything looks fine, everything might be fine, but it was done without permits. And now you are the owner of it and you have consequences attached to it. So this could mean an appraiser refusing to give you credit for that particular square footage. It could mean an insurance problem if something goes wrong. It could mean building department asking you to open up walls so an inspector can see what is behind them. And in worst case scenarios, it could mean unfinished or undoing the finished work, which I have not seen before, but absolutely could happen. So what do you need to do if we are aware that there is unpermitted work? A phone call to the town's building department would be step number 1. Ask what permits are on record for the address, compare it to what we are looking at, and if there is a finished basement with no permit history, we want to ask those questions and see if the seller can make sure that it is fixed, or if there is an open permit, make sure that it's closed out prior to closing. Unpermitted work, really, I mean, it could be totally fine. Sometimes there's people that are licensed and they just don't pull the permit because of the hassle, because of the wait time, whatever it may be, but you want to know for sure. You want to know that you are not purchasing a home that has work that is poorly done, especially after closing. You don't want to find that out. So do that due diligence as well. Okay, number 4, you will not do as much of the work that you think you will be doing. And I say this with love because I've been the person on a ladder at 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Doing the work is genuinely how people make the math work on a fixer-upper, but 2 things are almost always true. First, timeline is always longer than you plan, not because you are slow, But because you have a job and the work happens on nights and weekends, and one Saturday of demo turns into 3 Saturdays of demo, and then you find something behind the wall, which turns into a different project, and you've budgeted for 8 weeks, and all of a sudden you are several months down the line. So timeline is a real thing that can really get in the way, surprises, etc. And number two, some of this work just isn't yours to do. In Massachusetts, electrical, plumbing, those kind of things need to be licensed and permitted. You can absolutely paint, tile, install flooring, hang drywall, do demo, and do certain things, but you're not going to be pulling your own electrical service. You need to know where the line is and price that portion of work for a contractor. Honestly, one of the things for me that Ricky and I won't do is paint. We're just not good at it. And so it's something that we always have to budget to hire out. Another thing, when we were flipping houses in New Jersey, we did do electrical, plumbing, HVAC, but we did that in tandem with people that could pull permits and could double check all of that work. But we also did not do drywall. It just wasn't for us. And with a house, sometimes you're in a house that's much larger. Drywall is a specialized skill, and the mudding is specialized and it takes time. So drywall, mudding, and painting are 3 things that we just did not do ourselves most of the time. Practical piece of advice, line up your people, like your tradesmen, before you close, not after, because good electricians, good plumbers, good HVAC techs, they are busy. So if you are closing in like October, you want to have an HVAC person lined up rather than being in the middle of winter and thinking, oh no, I don't have anybody. And your real estate agent can share this too. I have a whole trades and services guidebook that I give to all of my clients with a vast list of experts who can assist you with all of these things. Okay, lastly, the number 5 thing that I wish people knew before they purchased a fixer-upper, the budget number and the financing number are 2 different problems. So 2 things here, and they really sometimes trip people up. First, the contingency, whatever you budget, add a cushion on top of it, and be more generous with older houses, of course, because older houses hide more problems. And that cushion is not to be pessimistic. It is just money for when you find something. Every experienced renovator has a cushion built into their budget. The people who get in trouble are the ones that are spending their entire budget on the plan and they had nothing left for the surprise. And Ricky and I have been there. So I say this with experience. You need to have a cushion in your budget. Second, and this is one that a lot of people don't see coming, a bank may not lend on a house that's in rough condition. So if a home has no working heat, no functioning kitchen, serious safety issues, a standard mortgage may not work, especially depending on what type of buyer you are. So that's exactly what a renovation loan is built for. There are programs that let you finance the purchase and the renovation together, like an FHA 203K loan, or there are other options as well, hard money, etc. So if a fixer-upper is on your radar, have that conversation with your loan officer early on, knowing which program you qualify for. It'll really change what houses we're looking at, because we may be looking at a property for an FHA 203K loan, and you are looking for something that's a smaller project or just cosmetic or whatever it may be. And we can do that. We can also do a total fixer-upper. So there are different variations of what we can be looking for and what your loan may be approved for. So 5 things: systems over services, know the age of the house and how it will trigger things in Massachusetts specifically. Check for permits, be honest about your own time, and solve the financing before you fall in love with a house. Fixer-uppers are still one of the best ways to get a home without stretching past what you're comfortable with financially. You just have to know what it is that you're buying. So if you're looking for something that needs a little bit of work in the area and you want a second set of eyes, I'm happy to chat with you, walk you through, or if you'd like to sit down and talk about it, have a buyer consultation, let's do that. I would love to chat with you. All of my info is in the description below, and I look forward to talking.